Today I'll be showing you how to access reports in Mastery Connect. The first report that we're going to look at is the individual student report. From this teacher's login, you'll go to your trackers and you'll choose the subject you want the student's report in. If I was going for math, I would click my math tracker. Once I'm in that tracker, I'm going to be focusing on the student whose report I'd like to view. I can click on the student's name and it will show these two standards here, OA1 and OA2, are the ones that have been assessed. The others show the NS because they have not been assessed. When I'm ready, I can click Print Report, and I choose what options I want to print. I always like to select Show Complete Standard so that those viewing the report understand what that standard entails. And then I may also include assessment dates so that I know when the student took the assessment. When I add dates here, it's just going to give me dates that I want to print the assessment for. If there's a range, if I want to focus on a specific quarter within the school year, here I'm just going to select all dates that I know will cover everything. A date in the past and a date in the future, and click Print. It'll bring up the print dialog box, which you can currently click Cancel on, and that allows you to view the report. Notice next to each standard, it's showing all standards that were within our first quarter from the tracker, but then it'll show current status and the words for those that were assessed. For example, this student was below mastery in OA1, shows that they scored 1 out of 3 questions and they took it on October 17th. It also gives an abbreviated title of the assessment, so this was multiplication, probably multiplication array. I can tell that by looking at the standard. And here they were in OA2, they received mastery, and it was 4 out of 5, and they took that on October 30th. When I'm ready to do so, I can hit File Print or Command P to pull up the print dialog box again. If I do not want to currently print this, but I want to save it to access later, I can choose my destination as Save as PDF, and then I'm going to click the Save button. Notice where it said Print, it becomes Save. And then I can name it maybe the student's name in Mastery Connect or the specific dates in the student's name, however you would prefer to name it. And then you would click Save. I'm clicking Cancel because I'm not keeping this report today. And maybe I want to change it to just go ahead and print it immediately, and I could choose a printer. That shows how to access a specific student's, but let's say I want to look at a specific report for an assessment like the benchmark. The student reports here do not include the benchmark data, and that's important to note. If you want benchmark data, you'll have to pull it up separately. So let's go back to the tracker and do that. Here I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to click Trackers again. We're going to go back to the math tracker, and let's look at that student's benchmark math data. So here I need to hover over it. Notice this one is the demo. I want the actual benchmark assessment, so I'll go over here and confirm that it does say bench. And I'm going to click Reports. From here, it will show me specific options as far as data analysis, item analysis for the different questions. That gives me information on how to gear my instruction. But if I'm looking at printing scores, I can click here on Print Scores, and I can choose which students I want to include, as well as which questions I would like to include. Currently, it automatically selects all of your students that were assessed on this. I'm going to deselect that box, and notice now none of the student names are checked. And I want to go back to that same student and just check her name. I'm leaving all the questions checked because I want it to be on the assessment as a whole. And then I can choose here, Show Correct Answer for Missed Questions, or Show Open Response Answers. I know from giving this test that there were not open response answers, so that box doesn't matter to me on this assessment in particular. But I may or may not want to give the people viewing this report access to the correct answers. Assuming I'm going to be using this in a conference, it might be helpful to have the answers there so that they can go over them, so I might want to leave that box checked. Again, I would just click Print, and it's going to show that student's name. If you're ready, you can go ahead and print it or save it, depending on which option is right for you at the moment. I'm going to click Cancel so we can look at this report closely. It is small, so I'm just going to zoom in a little on my screen so that we can see it. It shows all of the standards that were assessed because this was a benchmark assessment with multiple standards, and it shows that the student had mastery on each of the individual standards. So this is good information because it may show that standards they're stronger at or standards that they're weaker at and may need more remediation or practice in. Then it also goes question by question and will show whether they were awarded a point for that question or whether they were not. For example, you see question 24 was worth 1 point. They received 0 out of 1 point, and that lets us know that they missed that question. You can also see that was true for question 28, but it looks like every other question this student performed well on. At the top, you'll also see their total score and then a percentage. Because we're focused on that standards-based grading, that percentage may not be as important to us, but it may be beneficial data depending on what we're using this report for. When you're ready, you can click print again. You can choose to save this report to share it, or you can change that destination to a printer to print. In this case, it may be helpful to print in color because it does show the green for mastery, but again, it says the word mastery, so printing in black and white should be fine. And then you would just print that report. This shows you how to access data for a specific assessment, and in that case, we focus in on the benchmark. Hope this helps.